Wow.
Hello and welcome back, Royalty Talk family. I know it has been a minute. You guys have been missed. And to be honest, um, I have purposefully taken my time. I have gone back to school, so there will be some up and coming um, episodes where I'm talking about that and what that's like because it is 100% different going back to school as an adult wife, an adult mom, an adult grandmother. um, and the schoolwork, the requirements, I think even the pressure that you put on yourself to do a good job and because you're like, I should be better at this point. So that will come. And of course, as usual, I do my complete best to bring content that I think serves a purpose and will be purposeful in the lives of those that listen. And I have to be honest, like this one I have told with because it is so personal. This is October. It's my birthday month. I turned 40 and that was something. And of course I've had time to reflect and I have reflected. This being October and Domestic Violence Awareness Month, it has been truly difficult for me to um, decide finally to share some of my own story and what I have gone through in this situation. For a long time, I have said, I definitely have to share my testimony. And each time I think about it, I pray about it and I pray, what to share that Holy Spirit helps me in being wise in what I share. And it also does something. So once I decided, yes, this month is the month that I am going to share this information, then I go through this emotional, not necessarily a roller coaster, but there are a lot of emotions that re-arise because I am having to think back up and live back through some of the emotions, some of the times that I um, went through that were very dark days. They were very dark moments of my life. And then once reliving those things as a healed individual, it still affects you, but it just affects you very different because I couldn't share this from that place and provide that information if I didn't take the time to work on me, to get me better, and to work through how that trauma has affected myself, how it affected my children, and not allow that to dictate how I walk through my future, but to definitely use wisdom as I do walk through the future. So I'll start by saying that as a teenager, I got involved with someone who was married. And prior to that entanglement, I had gone through some years through like elementary school and stuff like that. I've experienced some molestation. So what happened in that particular situation was I learned to be quiet when there were things that were happening to me that I did not want. And that it was someone else who could tell me when to, what I should experience and what I should not experience. And that birthed some things in me that I feel like also made me stay a lot longer than I should have. And um, also, that person knew that those things had happened to me growing up. They knew about the situation that happened with my mom's boyfriend and the reason why I left from staying with her. So they used that knowledge against me a lot of times. Even in the end, when I finally decided to leave, left, and was not coming back, part of the things that they spoke out that were going to happen to me was, oh, you're going to experience someone who beats you worse than me. Your daughter is going to experience someone who molests her. And those were all things that were true fears that I held inside. I never said, but because they knew me well enough to say, I know she don't want this to happen to her. That should make her come back and stay with me. But it didn't. And I'll tell you this. I'll start with how I was going to end. That didn't happen. Okay? So let me first say, I encourage you, if you are someone who is listening and you have experienced, are experiencing this situation in your life, I encourage you to make a plan to leave. And I pray that when you do it, you stay gone. Because it took me leaving 3 times to stay gone. So what I'll also say is that it may be a process for you. If you're a person like me who wants to see the best in everyone and hopes and prays people will treat you the way that you treat them, do unto others if you have them do unto you. That is what you pray that everyone you encounter will be like in your life. And that is just not the way this world is set up. So you have to vet people. You have to figure out who is for you and who is against you. And someone who beats you, someone who treats you less than worthy, is not someone who will automatically just change those things. And I feel like that person has to want to. So in my situation, there kept being times where I tried to make that person want to. Or hope that person would change and want to, because they cared enough about me, cared enough about our family to make those decisions. And unfortunately, that did not happen. I even went to the extent of, instead of giving him this for court, can you give him this? This is what I really want. I want him to get some anger management. So anger management was demanded by the court after jail time, after that 48-hour jail time. And let me also say this. Nationally, statistically, 20 people every minute have experienced a domestic violence situation by someone they're intimate with. Racially, almost 50% of the people who experience domestic violence are Black. So this is not something that just does not happen. It is happening, and it's happening all around us. For me, I can remember starting my first really corporate job with a Black guy. So I go to the drugstore to try to get some makeup. I had no idea what I was doing with the makeup. It was not my right shade. I did what I could. They used to have these little things put up on the wall, and it would tell you, look at your veins and see what your veins look like. So it can try to help you decide what color you should get. And that color was wrong. It was wrong, y'all. But I did the best I could, and it wasn't working. So I went to hair store or something, and I brought these little fake glasses because at the time I didn't even need glasses. But I was trying to do what I could to help hide the Black eye that I had. I didn't know about concealer. Didn't know how to put any of that stuff on. I've gotten so much better over the years, thank God. But that's just because I want to get better. It's not because I'm trying to hide Black eyes. Thank the Lord. So, started that job with that. And so if there are any entrepreneurs who may be listening to this and you are blessed to be a person who has not experienced that in your life, what I will say is do what you can. Have some sort of plan. The same way you have a plan for natural disasters or emergency situations, it is an emergency when someone goes through this type of situation, whether it's the first time they've been hit or it's multiple times they are getting hit, beat, what have you. Have a plan of how you can assist this person. I know that there are a lot of places that do offer like EAP, so there's some type of therapy that is offered after you've worked for a certain amount of time. So have something that you can offer a person, because me being a young lady starting into this corporate job with that was a lot of weight on me. I'm trying to learn the job, but I'm also hoping and praying that they don't look at me um, and start making up their own scenarios or situations or whatever about me. Um, so it was weighty. It was weighty and something that I felt like I had to process and work through myself. There were a lot of times where I felt like I had to process and work through it myself. I felt like killing myself. I felt like it was so much. My daughter's dad would sometimes be like, "I'm gonna take her because I'm hearing you in this situation where he's beating you and da 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 da." And it was hard because I didn't want my kid to be taken, especially by someone who really wasn't present in her life. So I'm like, I'm a good mom. I'm a darn good mom. You know, I found myself in a bad situation. So here's what, even with my own child, what I have said to her now with the wisdom that I've gained is make a different choice. For me, the final choice happened when we had gone through another situation and I went to the bathroom and tried to get myself together. And, the person had told me several times before, years and years and years, they had done implanted in me that if someone, saw me crying, it would make me look weak. So that would, for years, I've had to work through that. And it's so crazy because now when I go through worship, like I weep, I weep, I weep, I weep. I even said recently, like, I wish I wouldn't cry when, I'm trying to sing, I'm trying to worship, I'm trying to do this, and I just keep crying, crying, crying. But it is so good, it's so free. Like I'm just so free in it now that I am grateful that that is where I am and that I can, especially with God, because He knows me. He knows my ins and my outs. I thank God that I am still here. I thank God that I am still here, hitting 40 and being able to look back and say, that time where that gun was to my head and that bullet had my name on it and he blocked that, I didn't have to be here. So people, when they see me, they don't understand my worship. They don't understand how I can live the way that I do, why I live the way that I do, why I praise the way that I praise. There is a reason why I am still here. And I want you to be here. So that is why I am doing this today. That is why I am sharing. I understand. I know the shame. I know the embarrassment that you feel, especially when you are trying not to let others know what you have gone through. When you're trying to hide the bruises, you're wearing long sleeves to try to hide it on your arms. You got marks on your neck. You can't hardly swallow because you've been choked. I understand. I've been there. I know how it feels. I know how it feels to try to hide it, not because you're trying to protect that person, but because you're ashamed. You're ashamed that this is what you're going through. You hoping and you praying that your life changes. But one of those times that we had gone to court again, and like I said, I asked for the anger management one time. There was another time that I asked for therapy because anger management did not work for him. And again, now that I am wiser and I'm older, I realize that these things were not working because he didn't want to do the work. And so that is what I think that the therapist was trying to get me to understand. So the last session, he didn't come. He thought he had already did what the court had required of him, which was to go. And he had gone twice, and that was it. That was all he was going to do. So third time I go and I go by myself, and the lady's like, "I'm so glad you came, and I'm glad that you're here by yourself because I wanted to share something with you." And I was like, "What?" And she talked to me about this book, and the book was about boundaries. And I never got the book years back then, But it is crazy because God brought the book to me, and this one of my best friends gave me the book, the same book she told me to get back then. She gave it to me, and I said, "Oh my God, this is the same book that the therapist recommended to me years ago." And even though I was in a different relationship, different situation when it comes to being the domestic violence, I still had to learn to create boundaries. I still had to learn to create them based off of me and my worth that I should have. And um, I'm so grateful for finally being in a place to where I understand that. I understand how to get people to treat me the way that I need to be treated. And it has been a process. So please, 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 if this is you, do not beat yourself up. You're going through enough. Work your way through your process. So the therapist, she's talking to me about boundaries, and what I learned from that situation was to figure out what I needed, what I wanted, and what I would accept. Those were the big things. What I needed, what I wanted, and what I would accept. And I created like a list. These are my non-negotiables. And so if the non-negotiable happened, like for instance being hit, my first business, I had to stop. I had to stop my in-home because I was hit in front of one of the kids, and I was so afraid that it would have gotten worse in front of them. There were items like stuff that I had put in there for them to play with that was just torn up. Just the same way they would tear up my phone because I found something in theirs. There was no limit to what may or may not happen. I've been hit while driving. I have been it everywhere, everywhere. There are not many places that we had gone where there was not a situation that had happened. So there are a lot of negative memories tied to places in my past because of those situations. And I've had to work through for years going back home. I've had to work through for years what to do when I got home. I don't even like to go now. It's like I go see my family, I spend time with them, but I don't feel like there is that much there for me. Um, but it has been a long time of me getting to this place. There are things that my future holds that is not in my past. And that is part of the process. And again, I say don't beat yourself up because it took me actually leaving 3 times. Physically leaving, like taking all of my things, all of my children's things, and leaving 3 times. The first time they said everything I wanted to hear, everything I wanted to hear, and I went back. The second time, they even was like, "Oh, I'm going to get saved," because I've always been a person who loves God. So they knew that that would make me think different. Because the first time, again, like I said, they said all the right things, and then it didn't pan out. Once they got comfortable with the fact that I was back, those same behaviors came back again. So second time it was, that. And I'm like, well, Lord, if anybody can change someone, it's you. So I'll try this thing again. And again, it's like you have to know the person, you have to know if they're really ready to do the work. Because if they are, here is the nugget for you. If they're really ready to do the work, they will do it without you. Because their desire is to change for themselves, not for you. So that's the same mindset that you have to take on for yourself, is that I want to change and I want to change for me, for my own self. Part of my motivation for that change was my children. In that last situation, one of my kids, I'm in the bathroom trying to get myself together, and they put a note under the door that said, "Mom, just leave." For me, it was like, they've had enough. they cannot take any more of this. I've got to get them out of this situation. And even though I did some things to create a safe place for us, I didn't say, where I was going. I found someone to help me move my things that would keep my new place to themselves. They would do it in a timely fashion because I made a plan. I had the money that I was putting up for this place taken by him when he found it. Because inside, I think he knew I wasn't responding to his antics the same way. So um, I think he knew some things was changing in me. And I don't even know today what I said that money was for when I found out that he had taken it. But I ended up getting it back. And I think that had I not have gotten it back, I probably would have lost that place, but I would have kept trying because I knew it was time for me to go. Um, and then after leaving, he tried to push my car into oncoming traffic with my children in the back seat. And that was like a huge eye opener for me that he wasn't just willing to hurt me, but he was willing to even hurt even our own child, to hurt me. Those threats of if I can't have you, no one will, and stuff like that. Like he was willing to go to extra miles to make sure that happened. And that's when I realized, I've been taking some precautions, but I need to do more. I need to make sure we're going to be okay, and that I do create a life that, as much as possible, I show my children peace from here on out. They have, they see the love, they can come home and not have to worry about the things that have troubled them in the past. And if there were anything that I could change, it would be that when we left for that final time and we got ourselves situated, I got them in school and everything, that I would have gotten us therapy because I did not realize the PTSD that I experienced afterwards was from all of that trauma. So much anxiety and so much stress of the things that were being said, the things that were being posted on social media, the threats, the voicemails, the letters, all those things. Um, the constant, it was like constant. I would have to leave work sometimes because I was throwing up. Leaving is a process, but it's a necessary process because your life is worth it. It doesn't matter how many things that they say to you that may make you feel as though it is not. It absolutely is. So if you cannot make a plan to leave and you need to leave abruptly, do it. Typically, there are places in the community that give you a safe space to have so that you can do that. You may need to do that. Sometimes there are people who will say, I'll help you, da da da. And everybody who rahs for you in the beginning will not be people who will help you in the end. And sometimes you can see it, sometimes you cannot. Especially if there is an interlocking of some sort relationship between those two people, it makes it difficult for them to care for you more than they care for that person. So if you encounter that, just keep going. Again, you're worth it. You are enough. Anything that may have been said, disregard. Disregard those things, and you have to realize who you are. You are beautiful enough. You are smart enough. You can do this. You can do this. And the things that were said to me, that would have placed some more fear, I was more willing to risk having experienced that than to stay in the familiar place and continue to experience what I was experiencing. Even if it did not mean my life, but it meant that miserable cycle, that was not worth it. And there is so much more peace that I have, and I have obtained over the years, so much joy. Like it took me a long time to just have real joy, not happiness based off of circumstances, but real joy. And it was so worth it. So if I could leave you with anything, it is definitely plan, but leave. If you can't make a plan, because your situation does not allow you to do that, I've left out in the middle of the night with my kids walking to get us to a safe place. Um, but once I took the time to actually make a plan, that seemed to work better for my situation. Even though, like I said, it was a time where money was taken because they saw me putting money up. They found where I was putting this money up. And then I found what they had done with it. Thank God I was able to get it and keep it and put it on a place, a safe place for us. Um, and then move away. I moved away so I could just have that peace. But, I have been able to work through over the years making a change and working on me through reading books and through God, through the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit has really helped me to work through some of the trauma, through the trauma that I have experienced. And for my children, I still feel like there are times when certain things play out in their lives, and it is not necessarily generational, but it is things where it was an environment situation. So even though they were in elementary school when I left, finally, um, they had seen a lot. They had seen a lot. They had been through a lot. So those situations somehow still play out even in their adulthood, and that makes me sad. It makes me sad as a mom because I wish that I had helped them work through some of that stuff back then. And so now, with the wisdom that I have gained, I don't just keep it or lose it or don't say anything. If I see my children going through different situations, I'm able to say, hey, why don't you look into getting this? Because you have this type of insurance, and there should be some sort of place that would help you work through this. Because even as a mom, and as much as I love them, there are certain things that I cannot help them work through. I've tried to love on them enough. I've tried to baby them up still, even though they're adults, the oldest two, not the baby. But there are things that I cannot help them through. There are things that only God will be able to do in their lives. And then there are things that He has placed here, people who He has given the knowledge to help them work through things. I do believe in therapy. I believe therapy is necessary, especially when you have gone through trauma. And there is like trauma, trauma from all these different things. So like me, a person who experienced molestation and abuse, that trauma, you typically need someone to help you, to counsel you through how to thrive in life after that. So that those are things that I suggest. I definitely believe, and I hope and pray that if you are a person who is experiencing this or has experienced it, that you get to a safe space. That is the most important thing for you to do first and foremost, is to make sure you're safe. And then from there, you begin to work on you. You got that safe environment, and then, you got the outside done, work on the inside. That is my suggestion. So I hope you have enjoyed today's Tea Talk. I hope that you are able to use this and that it is of value to you. And I hope that you share it. Entrepreneurs, please do not forget to make a plan for how you will work with someone. Don't disregard them. Do not leave them in that situation or to figure it out themselves. Do what you can. It's necessary. It's necessary because there are still people who experience this. It's necessary because I'm about to be one of those entrepreneurs who has to make a decision on how I will help other women. How I'm going to help another woman work through this. And I will help her the same way I will help my daughter. The things that I say to her are the things that I would say to someone else. And I have grace for someone who is working through their process because I had to work through mine. And so, family members, here's what I say. I know it is hard to see your loved one going through this, to hear about your loved one going through this. First of all, pray for them. Second of all, if there's any way that you can help them. There are things that people that they may be looking for to help them, and you might be the one, who can help get them in an apartment and give them the deposit or pay the first month. If you can do that, do it. Do it so they can be safe. Do it so they can get out, because if you've had a conversation with them and they really, really want life to be different, help them. And if they do it and they go back, don't be so upset that they went back, that if you have the means, you don't do it again. Because there'll be language that'll change. There'll be behaviors that'll change. Or ask them why. Like in my situation, I had a reason why I went back. If you saying you want to be saved and we're married, I thought that I would try again. And thank God I didn't depend on anyone else to give me the money for a deposit on any other home or anything. I worked through how I was going to be able to do that, because I didn't want to put that pressure on any of my family members. And there are some who would have helped, and there are others who would not have, because they probably thought I would have gone back. But me pressing to make it also made me press to stay gone and to continue to make sure that I created a life that was different for my children. I hope you have enjoyed today's tea talk, and I hope that it adds value to your life. If there's someone who you think needs to hear this, please, please, please share it. And thank you. And until we speak again, blessings and peace.